Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs. This is part 3 of a easy beginner journal with bands. I do want to apologize for my part 2. My camera turned off at the last minute and the very last part of it wasn't filmed. But I'll go through that and show you what you missed. You didn't miss very much. Anyway, we'll go ahead. This is part 3. If you haven't seen the other 2 parts, you can catch up. We're just trying to make a journal that, rather than sewing in your signatures, we're going to put them in with bands. Might be a little bit easier for beginners, and if you're not a beginner, this is a great way to do a journal where you can replace your signatures and reuse your cover. I think it'd be great for like a garden journal where you're, maybe you're using it yearly, that type of thing. Anytime, or if it's a writing journal and you fill it up and you want to put more signatures and you don't want to have a really big journal that you carry around with you. This is a little bit smaller size, and we're just going to make it more of a type of a garden journal with maybe a butterfly theme or kind of a nature butterfly theme. Anyway, we've gotten to this part. I think the video cut off right before I tied these bands. We had already placed them through here, and all you really missed is I had already placed them through here, then I tied them, and what I did is I cut off probably about this much on each end. So I don't know how much that was. That was probably all of approximately a little over 2 inches, maybe 2.5 on each end, and then made a really tight knot and cut off the pieces. And I actually cut off the pieces after I tied the knot because you want to have enough to work with. And then I put a little bit of the 3-in-1 glue on the knot, and while the glue was still wet, I took a piece of lace and tied it around, and so it stuck to it. It served 2 purposes. It further makes sure your knot's going to come undone, and it also kind of covers the knot. I will do that really quick with this one band just to show you how it worked because you missed it. I did want to point out that some of the other bands that you get will have this little thing right here, and that's okay, that's fine. You would just cut it off like that, thread it through just like we did with the other one. You'd put that through, then you're going to have it meet in the middle, and you don't want to just do it right at the end because I find that's a little bit too loose. You just kind of have to have a feel for it. You want it pretty tight, but not so tight that you can't get anything in or out of it. And then after that, you just tie it however you want to tie it. Cut off the excess and put that around it. So that's basically, this one doesn't have the band on it. You want to try and cut it where it has the where it comes together, because I think that would make it less likely to come undone. Again, you're gonna thread it through. You're gonna have it on the other end. You're gonna tie it, figure out how tight you want it. Every band's going to be different because they'll have a different elasticity. You're just going to tie it. Of course, it's going to be through the eyelets. And then after you figure out where you want it, put your glue on the knot. And then I just took some lace after I cut the ends. I'm not cutting it on this because I'll probably use that on another one, and pretty much just tied it on there, and that's what you're left with, is you're left with something like that. So anyway, we've got to that point, and that's pretty much the structure of your journal. At this point, we can decorate the cover if we want to. I already kind of started playing around with some things. Or we can go ahead and do the inside. I'm going to work on the structure on this because I think that's what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm coming at this from a standpoint of someone that's new to junk journaling. So we're gonna go from that. At this point, you want to pick out your pages that you want to put in here. And the important thing is when you're doing a junk journal, you want your pages to be a little smaller than your actual cover because you don't want them sticking out. So I had cut my pages. Let's see. This was about 7.5. So I cut it. I did them. I think it was about 7.25, I believe. Yeah, about 7.5 or 7.25. That gives you a little bit of space, you know, on the top and the bottom so that your pages aren't coming out. And then the thing you need to remember, if you want your pages, this is about 5 inches. So if you're wanting your pages to fold in half, you want to double that. So then your pages, the width will be 10 inches. So for instance, you're going to have a page that goes like this, and it's going to you fold in half, and you're going to cut it to where it's going to go, you know, in half. It's going to go like that because you're going to be sewing this right here. On a journal with a 1-inch spine like that, I would not go more than, you know, maybe keep it around 20 pages total, maybe 10 in each signature, because you don't want it to be too thick. And the one thing I learned when I was doing journals is that for the most part, I would tend to overstuff my journals. I would put way too many pages in, and then I'd embellish them, and then they wound up being just super, super chunky. And I like them chunky, but not to the point where you can barely close them. So anyway, I thought we would work on the pages and putting those in, and then we are going to sew the signature, but we're not going to sew the signature in. Like I said, I think that's a good way to start. So you're learning how to sew a signature, but you're not worried about putting them in. You're just going to slide them in there. Anyway, I have picked out pages for this journal, and it's pretty much going to be a plain writing journal. So I haven't picked out that many pages that you couldn't use to write on. I'll show you real quick. This is another piece of the Paper Studio pack that I got. And you know, another thing that I learned, I used to always want to have the really double-sided thick papers to use in the journals, and I realized real quick that those get very bulky. So a lot of times these papers that you have, they're not quite as thick, tend to work reasonably well. So you know, get those out and use them. The only bad thing is that you're left with, you know, white pages, but I have a fix for that. I have all times a little mixture that I've made. I've just got a spray bottle, and I take a little bit of Distress ink, and I think there's a little bit of brown alcohol ink. I mix it with alcohol, not water, and there's a reason for that. It dries a lot faster. It doesn't warp your paper as much. And before I cut my page out, I usually just spray it real quick with this from a distance. And then it gets kind of an antique-y look. And a lot of times too, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and distress the ends a little bit. And you know, that keeps you from having to tea dye all your papers all the time. I also will do that on any other pages that I put in that I haven't tea dyed or coffee dyed. These pages are done with just food coloring. I've just put a few drops of food coloring in some hot water and dunk them in and then let them dry. So this is just done with this same process. And the other thing too is when you're doing vellum, the alcohol ink sticks better, and again, it dries really quick. Now you can coffee dye these and they'll work fine, but a lot of times I don't necessarily always have what I need on hand, and I don't want to have to, you know, distress it all with my distressing tool. And this works great, I think. You know, if you have your little off-cut pieces like this, save those, because having different size papers in there makes it more interesting. I don't have that many in this journal just because I'm trying to kind of keep it simple for somebody that's new. This is a coffee dyed piece of paper. You don't have to have coffee dyed paper. It's just, it tends to look like old paper. And one thing that I really have come to realize about junk journals, it's a lot about the texture, how things feel. This is an old book page, but then I attached just some paper. I think this is used for when you're painting, and it's very thin paper, so by itself I wouldn't want to use it, but I attached it to the book page on the other side of the book page, and so I use that. This is just from a composition notebook, and again I use the spray on here, and of course cut it down to fit in here, and so then you have your lines going the right way. This is a glassine bag that I bought, and I got the darker brown one because I thought these look good, and we'll cut this other side open so that we can put things in there. And the other thing you want to be on the lookout for is any old books. This is a French English dictionary, and then it's glued onto another old book page of another dictionary. And the way I do that, when I do those, I always reinforce them with some washi tape, or you can take your strips of paper, you know, when you're cutting things down to size, and you can use that, you know, glue those on there. And I always do both sides and glue that on there, and then that reinforces your paper too. Again, you're going to make this the 10 inches because you want to be able to fold it in half. So you're going to cut that down to size. This is just some old parchment paper. I think I said this before. This is a part of the Declaration of Independence that I had bought on a trip many years ago. And I don't know what I thought I was going to do with it, because, you know, who has room to hang up the whole Declaration of Independence in their house? But anyway, I had that. Again, this is just some food coloring that I put in some hot water, and that's how it turned out. I thought it turned out pretty cool. And then again, this is just a offcut of some of the other paper. So I'm keeping it kind of simple because I thought, well, these are the kind of things that people would have access to if they're just starting out. Not a lot of vintage, not having to go hunting around for stuff. These may be things you have lying around and that makes your junk journal interesting. I mean, you could add envelopes, things like that. Now, I have, on a beginner junk journal, I think if you keep it simple and then try and embellish later, that makes it a little bit easier than trying to sew pages and sew pockets and do that sort of thing beforehand. But so we're just going to go from the standpoint that we're going to try and keep it simple. Anyway, what you want to do at that point is, I'm going to take that out of the way. You want to get your papers lined up, and I always use, let me get my clips real quick, clips, which you can use these, or you can use when you only have about 10 pages, I don't need that many of them, but if you only have about 10 pages, you can use paper clips. They work well too for this, the bigger paper clips. And that's probably what I'm going to use. But if you have more pages, you may want to use something like this to bind your signature as you're working on it. In any case, you want to kind of get them all going the right way. Now, I know people use the book binding, you know, apparatus and things like that, and I have one and I've used it, and honestly I think it's more trouble than it's worth, but it's up to you what you want to do. If you don't have a huge journal and you don't have a lot of pages, it's pretty easy just to hold it and do it. So anyway, you've got this all lined up. You want to get the pages as straight as possible. Figure out, make sure everything's in there. I do that a little bit. You want to take your paper clip and get it as close to the inside. Here, I'll probably do this on the other side as you can to hold everything in there. I go from side to side when I do it, and then I go back. And then I'll take these, go in. This isn't really holding that middle one real well, but it will. It'll be good enough. All right, so make sure that gets in there. So that is how your signature is going to be. So we have that ready to go. Now the next thing I do is I am going to go ahead and figure out where I want to place my holes in my signature. So I will take, usually a piece of paper. This is a piece of file folder. Now, if you are sewing your signatures into your book, you're going to want to make this piece the size of your actual cover. But because we're not doing that, we're going to make this piece the size of our actual signature. I mean, as far as the length. So this is going to be the same. I didn't measure this. I just took the piece and then marked it and cut it. But in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to use this to put our measure our 3 holes so that we can take this piece of paper to our other signature and make sure it matches. You could also skip that step and you could mark the 3 holes and then just use this to do your other signature. That's probably what I would do, but just to make it a little simpler, a little bit more clear, I think I'm going to do it this way so people can see what we're doing. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and I know that this is the same as our signature, so I'm going to go ahead and measure this. I want to find the middle because that's where I want to put my middle hole, and that's what's so great about this Tim Holtz ruler. It helps you do that. So let's see here. And you don't have to get it exact, but you want to try and get it as close as possible. So I know that this is the middle. And then I try and get my other holes in, you know, about 1 inch from the top. So that's going to be about right here. Then right here you want to make it kind of even. So that's where the 3 holes are going to be, or that's where that's where we're going to stitch our journal. So we put that there, and I put it right very close to the middle line. And then what I'm going to do is make sure it's, you know, even top and bottom, and I'm going to make a little mark there, a little mark there, and a little mark there. So there we go. that's where we're going to put our 3 holes. So you can do that with your other signature, or you can go ahead and stitch it and come back and do it, but we'll just do both at the same time so we kind of repeat the process. Get some more bigger paper clips out of there. Big mess over there now. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and make sure our pages are where we want them. Go like this, make sure they're all even, go like that. Then take the little ones, make sure that they're where you want them. You may want to put some up here, some down there. Some people like them down there. I'm just going to put these in the middle to kind of keep it simple. And let's see, I think we have one other one. I try and kind of keep all that nice and neat. Take your paper clips, do it again, go as far in as you can because you want to. It's good if you can catch a little of this to keep it there, but if you can't, that's okay. You can kind of work with it. We're going to go here. And like I said, I usually try and go hold it a little bit tight like this so it goes in as far as it can. Put that over there, see if I can get that on there. Doesn't always work. There we go. So see, you want to get that to where it's going down, otherwise some of your pages are going to stick out the top. Anyway, so we're going to do the same thing to this as we did to the other one. We're going to take our piece of paper. We're going to make sure it's even top and bottom. Oh, there's one thing I didn't tell you guys, and I did forget to do that. I'm going to go back and do this just in case. Because you're probably not going to do this exact on your measurements, you want to measure top and bottom, so that you do it the same. So this is the top here. I'm going to remeasure it, make sure everything is the same. Well, this is kind of moving, so that doesn't help. But, so this is the top. So we're going to put top right here. So that when you get your next one, even though we did measure them, okay, our top goes this way. We're going to make sure that we get it top and bottom. So this is the top. See, that's just off a little. You want to try and do it about the same, because what will happen is then they'll be a little crooked. The good thing about doing it with the elastic bands first time out is that you've got a lot of give in there. You've got a lot of room to where you can move it around a little bit and it'll look nice and even. Okay, so there we go. We did those two. Don't need that anymore. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we are going to stitch our signature together. And like I said, this is just kind of a way to do it to where you're easing yourself into it. Or also if you've been junk journaling and you want a way. I know there was a question once on one of the Facebook sites about somebody wanting to do a garden journal, and they wanted a way to take the different seasons in and out, you know, and keep a couple seasons in there. And that's kind of what brought this about, is I thought, well, that would be a good way to do that, because you could, you know, keep track of what you planted and put pictures and notes and whatever. You know, maybe you're working on, you know, winter and spring, and then, you know, summer and fall, whatever. That way you can take them out, and then you could keep them from year to year too. So anyway, that kind of what made me think about this. And then also the fact that I was trying to think about an easier way because I did have a couple friends wanted to know how to do a junk journal, and I thought, well, I'm trying to think of an easier way. I was thinking about doing the 3-ring binding. Honestly, I don't like how those turn and how they feel. So I think this is kind of a halfway point where it's not too hard to do, and also it is gradually getting you into junk journaling, you know, where you can learn to sew in your signatures. Okay, so the thread that I'm using is a wax thread. I got this off of Amazon. I got a whole kit. I don't even think I paid $8. It had like 5 of these. It had needles. It had an awl. It had everything. So it was very inexpensive. Now, if you're making a lot of junk journals, you may want to go a cheaper route. I've known people that get upholstery thread and then they just get their own wax or beeswax and then they run it through there, and then that makes it pretty sturdy. They'll double it or whatever. This was so inexpensive that I didn't have a problem buying it. But the reason you want to use a sturdy thread like this with wax is you want a strong thread so that your book stays together. And that's the most important thing, is to get something that's strong. And the wax, it'll help you work with it easier, but also it helps when you tie your knots. It keeps them together. Now, I will say this. If you have a sewing machine and you wanted to, this is only, I think I put 12 pages in one and 13 pages in another, and that includes this little middle part too. And you could really, on a lot of sewing machines, you could just stitch it right down the middle. I mean, and that would be it. And then you could just stick it right in your book with the elastic, and wouldn't even have to do this part, because I really do think most sewing machines would easily do that. I know mine would. And that would probably be, you know, an easier way for people who have not been sewing in junk journals. But if you want to learn how to do this, this is how you do it. People do it different ways. I have found, oh, I didn't mean to put that knot in there. Well, cut that off. People do it different ways. This is how I do it. You know, you can do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch or whatever, but this is a fairly small journal, and this is very sturdy thread, and you're going to have a very, very sturdy signature when you get done. Okay, so I always make my thread much longer than it needs to be. I make it 3 times. This is actually longer because it had that knot in it, but we'll go ahead and work with it. On the very end, what I do is I tie a paper clip. And the reason I do that is because I have learned that what happens is very often the thread goes through there and I have to start all over again. Now, I don't double knot it. I just do a single knot, and you will see why you want that in there. It's because what happens is when you start sewing on this thing, it could very easily go through there, and then you got to start over, which is not the end of the world, but it's just kind of aggravating. All right, so anyway, I always start in the middle, so I'm going to go right through that hole. And this is just a needle that came in the kit. I happen to like it because it's kind of a longer one, and it doesn't really matter that much in this signature because it's smaller, but it's easier to manipulate. And oh, you know what? We did not punch our holes yet. I skipped that part. Partly because if it was just me doing this, I would probably just do this because this will punch a hole. But you want to have an awl or a pokey tool, or even just a needle. You don't have to have this. And you want to puncture holes. Now, some people have a book binding, you know, apparatus and everything. I have a book binding thing that I use from We Are Memory Keepers, but I'm not going to do that with this because I don't want people to think that they have to go out and buy that. And like I said, if you keep it simple and you only have about, you know, 10 pages in here, it's not a big deal. So I kind of hold it you know, semi-closed like this, because what you're trying to do is get this hole to go through here and then come out here. You don't want it poking on either side. So we're going to do that. And that's our first hole. So it's come all the way through, and you see how it's in the middle. It's not on the side. That's your goal. So that's one. All you're doing is poking holes in the places that you had marked. And like I said, you kind of want to keep it closed, because otherwise you're going to be poking through the side. That's the point in keeping it that way, and that's why people use those bookbinding tools, and it does help you do that. But I don't want people to feel like that they have to have that. And again, see, here's the last one. We're going to kind of keep it bent so it doesn't go through the side. And there you go. So now you've got your 3 holes. All right. So now we are going to go and we are going to start in the middle. And then go through. And you'll hear some people say you have to go to the top or you have to go to the bottom. You can go either way. It's not going to make any difference. So after that, on the back side, we've come through. We're going to come through the top or the bottom, either one. And after you do that, and you don't have to worry about getting it tight now. I mean, we can do that later. But let me show you something real quick though. This is why this paper clip is there. If you accidentally pull too tight, that thing goes right through there, and then you're starting over again. So that's why I keep it there. So anyway, and it also too, if you want to pull it a little tight at that point, you can. Okay, from that point, what I do is I go all the way up to the top or the bottom, depending upon where you started. You did your second one. You want to go through that hole. And when you have a lot of pages too in your signature, sometimes what will happen is it'll get off kilter or whatever. You don't want to poke a new hole. You want to try and go through the hole that you originally poked. Okay, so you're going to go through there. Get that off the side. There we go. Then what I do is I go through the middle last. Now this is important. When you're going through, I'll show you, you don't want your needle to go through the thread that's already there. You want to go through the same hole, but you don't want to go through the thread. And the reason is at the very end, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to tighten this. And you can't do that if you go through that thread. Okay, so I've got through the last one. Now see, I'm going through this little thread here, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo that there. Okay, so I got that in. And if ever you do this and at the end you're trying to tighten it, and you can't, that's because you went through that thread and you don't want to do that. So you would basically have to go back through and, you know, undo it. Okay, at this point, usually what I do is I untie that little knot, and then I take this, and you want your thread on either side, and then you tighten it. What that does is it pulls the thread from both ends, and it tightens it up for you, so it's nice and tight. And then I take it one step further, and I will go around and go around. Oh, here we go. Do that. Go like that. I think I made that hole a little bit too big in the middle, but we'll fix it. And then what you want to do at that point is you want to tie it off. And I usually tie it off 2 times, which is plenty on the wax thread. If you want to leave your tails long, you can. I'm probably not going to on this book, but we'll see. Anyway, so there we go. I think I made that hole in the middle a little bit too big because I moved it around too long. You want to try not to do that. And because we only got this in the middle one time, it's not in there real great, but it'll work. Anyway, so that's our one signature, and it's nice and tight. So we'll do the other one real quick. And let's see if we can get that done. I think on this one, so our paper doesn't move around that much, what you probably want to do is move that up here. So we're going to have to move our hole in the middle. Where's our paper that I had? Let's do that. This is the top. Yeah, that's the top. So we're going to go ahead and mark that. I'm going to put this over here. The reason I say that is that way at least we will get it threaded through there 2 times. And what that'll do is it'll keep it from moving around like the other one did. So anyway, we'll put that up here at the top. So we're not going to do that. Erase that. And we're going to put that over here. Get that lined up. It's a little off. So that's our top. Okay, so we're going to do that again here. And then here. I guess I didn't really have to mark the pink one, but oh well. So then I'm going to take this other paper that I have, and I'm going to move it the other way. Let's move that here. That way, this one's going to have, be tied in there with 2, and this other one will do the same thing. We're just going to move it down. We don't have to mark it because it's not in the middle, and it'll get hit with 2. So we'll do that. So that way, we're not going to have the issue that we had with the other one. Okay, so let me see how much thread we have left on this. It's a little, we'll take another piece. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, thread our needle. I still have to punch some holes, and I go 1, 2, 3. Like I said, it's overkill, but I'd rather have a little more. Then I take this, I always make it a little bit longer, tie it on there, and that has saved me a bunch of times. We're going to punch our holes, and remember how we're going to try and keep it bent enough as possible there. And 1, there we go. You don't go on the side, and make sure you go in the middle. Okay, do that again. And then do the last one. Okay, so after that, we're going to start again. We're going to go through the middle, just like we did with the other one. You don't want to be making a new hole. We want to go straight through. Then you can either go top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Either way. You're going to go through the back. Now see, this is a really good example. Okay. My papers came a little bit undone. So I almost, if they come a little bit undone, then what will happen is it won't be easy for you to put the hole through, so you have to kind of line them up. All right, there we go. See, our paper clip saved us again. Then you're going to go all the way up to the other one. You skip the middle. Go down. Then you're going to go back up through the middle, not catching this thread, because then you will not be able to tighten it. And that's where you can kind of put it up through there. All right. Then what you want to do, I've got it through my paper clip. get that undone. Okay, that made a big mess. Hold on just a second here. Let me get that off of there so I don't do that. Okay. And then I just use either my awl or my needle to untie it. That's one thing too, is the wax thread is very, very easy to work with. Okay, so you want to make sure that your middle one is in between both of them. You want to go ahead and pull opposite ends, and that makes it really tight. And then you're going to go ahead and tie at least twice. Some people do 3 times, but I think 2 is plenty. And then cut it. And you know, and some people leave the tails long and they put stuff on them, and I do sometimes, but I probably won't in this one. I haven't really decided. So anyway, that is how we tied off our 2 signatures. So now what we can do is we could put those right in our journal just like that and decorate them. I'd probably leave them out till I'm done decorating because it'd be easier to work with, but this is how it's going to work. It's going to work just like that. One's going to go there. From the other middle. The other one's going to go there. Okay, it's not hard. It's kind of an awkward angle. Try that, like that. Here we go. This one's going to go here. All right, and there we go. So now I would take my bone folder. Probably want to do that beforehand, but you want to make sure that your pages are going to line in there nice and flat. You want to go through the edges. Probably should have done that before we put it in there, but that's what you're going to want to do. So, all right. So then anyway, that is your journal. You basically have just done a journal. What's good about these bands, like I said, is it will keep it in nice and tight. And, you know, you've got plenty of room to fill up that journal. And there you go. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of decorating on the outside of this. Let's see where we are on time. I think we could get that done in about a few minutes, and then you can kind of get an idea of what you could do. And the reason I'm doing that is I wanted to show you something that I kind of figured out that we could do with these bands. So as far as decorating the inside of the journal, like I said, I've kind of been leaning toward journals that I haven't decorated a bunch until after I put the pages in. Just because I think for the most part I did a lot of removable things because I wanted to have more writing space in them and make them more practical for, you know, for that use. So anyway, let me show you what I thought as far as what I was going to do to kind of spruce this up a little bit. First of all, I kind of had an idea that maybe on the outside of this journal that oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. I moved the camera. We could put some lace on the outside of this and cover those up if we wanted to. You know, I mean, it would still be a little bumpy, but it would cover that up. I thought we could try and do that. Also, I wanted to maybe put some lace on some other parts of it. And I thought, well, let's just do that a little bit. Put my other butterflies on there. And also, you could see how we're going to put the ribbon, the closure on there. And that way, you could see it, that part of it done. So let's do that. first thing I'm going to do is, if you want a closure on here, there's several ways you can do it. You can do it after, you can do it for, I'm going to do this piece of lace that I have, this cotton lace. And I'm going to put it on here and have it go, oh, I moved the camera again. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean to make you dizzy. I'm going to put it through here. And I need it long enough that I can tie at the end and put it like that. And then I'm going to do it probably equal to the other end. So let's see, we go like that. And then, yeah, let's just do that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Let's see if that comes pretty equal. Right there. It needs to go here just a tiny bit. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that before I put my lace on the outside. So I'm just going to take some 3-in-1 glue or fabric tack. I guess you could use hot glue on this too. I haven't ever tried that, but that would probably work. So I'm going to put that on here and put it over here. Probably going to run it all the way to the end of the burlap to make it nice and strong. Maybe put a little in the middle too. Okay. Probably could be a little straighter. And I'm just eyeballing the middle. Okay. So I am not gonna go, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm gonna tie it or glue it all the way to the end there. I don't do that a lot of times because, you know, I don't know. I just don't. I'm not sure yet. But if I want to later, I can. The important thing is that I got it here before I put my other lace on. Okay, so now I'm going to take my other piece and I'm going to put it over here. So let's do that. I'm going to go. Now this will not interfere with your bands. It'll work just fine. But it will cover them up. I kind of like the way that they look, but I just thought I would do it this way just to show people another option if they don't like it. Anyway, you know, it will be a little bumpy because these are pretty thick bands, but you really won't be able to see it very much. So I got a little bit too much glue right there. Okay, so we're going to do that. Get that in there good. Get it all flat. I think use this will help me a little bit. Right? Okay. So we got that. You could use a wider piece in here too if you wanted to. I have some that are wider that might actually have worked better, but I think that'll be fine. That'll be fine. Okay. And then I'm probably not sure if I'm going to put this over the ends. I don't think I am. I think I'm going to cut it off. And whenever I cut my lace or burlap or whatever, I always take a little bit of glue on the end so it doesn't fray. And we'll do that. I mean, I like the frayed look on things, but you don't want it to get to where it frays too much, because that won't look too good later. Okay, so we did that. Also too, part of the reason I did not glue it all the way to the end, I'm going to put some lace right here. I like the, I don't know, I may put the, let me see, I have a wider lace I may use for that. Let me try that. Just depends, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I may do that because I had tried some before. As you can see, I have some glue on there. I think I'm going to put that there. Okay. So I think I'm going to put this on the bottom and the top. I'm going to go over this. That helps cover the end right there. And then I'm going to put the other stuff on the front and back. Okay, so let's do that. Probably put a little bit more than I needed, but that's okay. There we go. And you want that to get it into where the fold is so that when you fold it, it doesn't pop off. All right, so there we go. Got that piece. We're going to do one on top. Like I said, when I do my lace, I don't see. I guess I'll do it that way. Yeah, it looks better. I don't cut it until I'm done placing it because for some reason it'll shrink, or I measured it wrong or something, and I end up having to have a piece wasted or, you know, cut not the way I want it. So I put it on there, glue it on, and then I go cut it on the end like this. Oh, there we go. Make sure that's on there good. And I'm sure maybe many of you already know that, but it took me a while to figure that one out. Anyway, so that one's on there. Now, I am not sure. I'm thinking about it. I may put a little bit right here. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some right there. I'm going to do it on the front and the back. So let's do that. All right. Now this, I'm going to have to get it to where it's right about here. Move that up a little. Okay. Get it right to the end. Now the one thing about this 3-in-1 or fabric tack, it dries pretty fast, but it does give you a little bit of room. If you make a mistake, you can lift it off and, you know, you've got some time in there. All right, let's do this one. I like it better than hot glue. Hot glue tends to leave it kind of bumpy. All right, now this I want to make sure is about the same. Oops, sorry, hit the camera again. All right, let's see. So, yeah, I want it to be hanging out about the same, so put it on there the same. There we go, like that. Yeah, okay. That's about right. Okay, so there we go. And then I'll kind of fix that up a little. That's the basic, getting it down there. All right, so now trim that up a little. Maybe add a little more glue. Now that's probably enough. Add a little bit more there. Then remember I told you that we put a little bit on the ends, and I just take it and go like that so it's not going to fray. Put that right there. All right, Like I said, I like it a little frayed, but I don't want it to just become completely unraveled. And then that'll dry. I need a wipe here. My hands are getting awful sticky. Okay. So that's probably all the lace I'm going to put on it. Probably going to go ahead and cut that a little bit. Not sure if I'm going to leave it that way or do it differently. So that'll be going something like this. So we'll just do that. Now this'll, after a while, it'll close easier, but it's going to go kind of like that. So we're going to go like that. And that's going to be our closure. So then we're going to have our little lace closure right there. I think at this point what I'm going to do is put my other butterflies on there, and then I have a flower, and I'm not sure if I'm going to put that on there here, which I think I probably will. Probably going to go about right there. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that is what I decided. And then I've got a few other butterflies that I'm going to put on there. Let's just do that. I don't remember. I had them all kind of marked out there. I'm trying not to cover the butterflies that are already there. But let's just do that. I think that's how I was going to do it. These are butterflies that I got from the dollar store. I've had them for quite a while. I have not used them. And I was looking for some butterflies to put on this. And I honestly ended up liking these the best, and I was kind of surprised, but oh well. Maybe put that one there. I don't know. Like that. Okay, so let's put that one there. Make sure it's down there good. I'll leave that. And I tested it with one of these to see if it stuck down there good, and these things are down there pretty good. Whatever kind of sticky they have on there. As a matter of fact, I'm having a hard time getting that off of there, so. Yeah, okay. There we go. Oops. Well, maybe not. Okay, there we go. I don't know. Do we want this way or that way? This way. Nope, then they're both going the same way. I don't like that. I don't know. I have some other butterflies. I don't know if I should use these other ones or not. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to put you over here for a minute. Maybe I put that one down here. Once I put this down, it's gone. Plus I got some glue on there. Let me check this other one real quick. Don't stick, don't stick, don't stick. Okay, so let me see. Like I said, I was going through a lot of butterflies. I might try this one over here. Let's see what this guy looks like. Cut him out. This one might work a little better for what I want to do. Oops, did not mean to cut that. All right, I got to get him off. Yeah, I think that might work better. All right, let's try that. I don't know. I cannot make up my mind. Then I could put this one kind of over here. I don't know. This is the hardest part for me, guys, is to do my cover. I'm going to put that down. And then I may put a smaller one over there. Let's see. And then put this one up here. Okay, so this one's going to go like that. About right here. Okay, there we go. And so then we have our butterflies in there. I think I really need one more right there, but I think I need a really small one. I don't think I have a really small one. Ooh, yeah, I do. Yes, I do. I think I do. Like I said, I went through a lot of butterflies to try and figure out which ones I was going to use, and I thought I'm going to use these because they look kind of realistic. Does that? No, it's too much like that one. I don't want them all looking the same. I kind of wanted it hanging over a little bit, so I don't want it going on this. Oh, good, I have room. There we go. Okay, all right. So here's my butterflies. I'm going to put this on. And put it right here. And I may add some buttons and a few other things later. But for the most part, that is our journal. So we have made a butterfly journal with, it has the bands in there, but you can't see them. It's got a lace closure on it. Oh, probably should let that dry a little bit more, but anyway. And you've got your bands in here, and you can take this in and out. It's nice and tight. It's not going anywhere. Easy peasy. And it, you know, it makes a nice looking little journal. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you for watching. If you've liked the video, please like it for me. If you would like to see more, I promise I'll get a little better, a little organized, not make as many faux pas with my camera. And go ahead and like and subscribe. Thanks a lot for joining me. Appreciate it.